Endorsed. Thank you very much for your work and your attention. We are going to move to item 12, which has been referred to from the Audit Risk Committee, Health, Safety and Wellbeing Performance Report.
Happy to move, Mr. Chair. I think you need to hear from this one.
Someone seconded as well, but we've got this bloke's got a nice fresh white shirt on, so we're going to listen to him regardless. But it's been moved by Councillor Walker and seconded by somebody, me if nobody else. Off you go and tell us about this fascinating piece of work.
Thank you. Jim, I think you were going to potentially make some introductory comments to this particular paper.
Thanks, Paul. And councillors, just to introduce, excuse me, the paper providing an update on health, safety and wellbeing, and we've made references to this early in the meeting that actually the organisation is going through a process of change. We are dealing with a reasonably significant restructure, changes to people's roles. We're under significant financial pressure. People are seeing that across the organisation and feeling the impact of that. We have seen an increase in the number of people who have kind of utilised our support services, like Speak Up and support lines, and an increase in the number of reports of kind of stress and pressure in the workplace. Just to let you know that we have a number of initiatives underway and we are addressing that. And not to preempt any questions, but of course we'd be happy to cover those in more detail in a workshop in a few months' time, as I think the Audit and Risk Committee have recommended that the governing body be briefed in a workshop setting on those sorts of subjects. And so we'd be happy to go into more detail on that with the governing body at the appropriate time. But it is fair to say that the organisation is under a fair bit of pressure, and we are seeing evidence of that across the organisation as we are managing it. Over to you, Paul.
Thanks, Jim. So I'll take the rest of the paper as read, but there are a couple of points that I did want to just flag for you all. The first is we are continuing to spend a significant amount of time and effort ensuring that our control effectiveness for health, safety and wellbeing is robust. So we have been replacing systems, tools and frameworks. One of those is through Project Header, which is a significant piece of work to improve our management of health, safety and wellbeing through the systems and tools that we have. That is on track and delivering well. We have seen a 35% increase in the number of incidents reported as a result of that. That is showing that the systems and improvements we're embedding are sustainable and having the desired impact across the organisation. Jim has mentioned an increased focus on mental health and wellbeing across the organisation. We have a mental health plan that we've started actioning. We're referring to that as Iti Kahurangi. That has a number of elements to it. They focus on support for staff who are experiencing distress and mental health concerns, but also about addressing some of the underlying drivers that exist that impact on mental health in the workplace. We're also focusing attention on those critical risks in the organisation, which are those risks that have the potential for fatal injuries. We're continuing to develop standards with our workers to understand what can cause those types of injuries, and also what controls do they see as appropriate to implement to prevent those from occurring. And on that, violence and aggression, which is one of our biggest critical risks, continues to be the highest source of incident reporting across the organisation. We are undertaking a number of actions to try and address that, but it is still something that we're experiencing on a regular basis, and that's across the organisation. So I think that's probably the key points that I would want to make to you all, but happy to take any questions.
Councillor Turner, please.
Straight off with a comment rather than a question, please, because I just want to say this so that I'm not seen as not prepared to speak my mind. And the health and safety is very, very important, but it is robbing us of productivity as it slowly overwhelms the whole employment environment. And the Health and Safety Act says reasonable precautions are taken against a reasonable risk at a reasonable cost. And so although I commend all the things you are talking about, we must balance this stuff, because productivity in itself brings a reward to the individual which helps lift their mental status, let alone anything else. So I just wanted to make that comment because it's where I stand and I want to stand firm everywhere. Thanks.
If I might respond to that one, Councillor Turner, through the chair. I think historically, traditional health and safety approaches have been cumbersome, restricted work productivity, and have challenged workers through a compliance mindset. Modern approaches are starting to become much more about enabling successful work outcomes, and that's the definition of safety that we use now, which is ensuring that workers can undertake their work successfully more often. Thinking of injuries being a type of waste, how do we ensure that workers can do the best work they possibly can, given the tools and resources they have available to them, and enable that successful work outcome at the end of the day. So that's the definition we're taking. It's a much more productive approach to health and safety, and it tries to address some of the concerns that you've raised. So we're hoping to address that one over time.
Sounds like I was ahead of my time. Thank you.
Good points, though. I think it's just balancing the thing. It's a bit like what we're talking about, my attack on the road cones. They've made it so safe there's no road left to be dangerous on. So just balancing it. Councillor Henderson wishes to...
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. Just drawing the committee's attention to point 13 in the report. Could I ask you to comment further on the Eti Kahurangi mental health plan?
Sure. So this was a plan that we structured to try and address the concerns that we were seeing across the organisation. It's broadly based around some of the work that the Business Leaders Health and Safety Forum has recommended around ensuring that we do things to both protect and support mental health, but also to foster and nurture it. So in doing that, we're focusing immediately on support. What support do our people need for their mental health? Noting that that is an obligation to us under the Health and Safety at Work Act. The support we're providing very much around ensuring that we have mental health advisory services available to the organisation. We've trained up a Manaki support network, which is a peer-to-peer support network. We are increasing the pastoral care services that we have. This is around providing wraparound care. Yeah. That's our immediate focus. Longer term, we do want to start to address some of those challenges to mental health. Things that we've spoken about before around workload, for example. How do we prevent workload from driving mental health harm? That's a longer term focus because that is a tricky subject to try and address, balancing the productivity requirements of the organisation with the need to ensure that we don't overload staff. So it's a broad plan. It'll take us probably 12 to 18 months to really start to get some traction on this.
Thank you.
Councillor Ferry.
Thanks. Just a bit more on that in terms of that impact that we anticipate that might have on retention, because there is a real risk here of losing highly skilled staff, and the impact that that in turn has on productivity, quite apart from treating human beings like they're human beings. So what are you sort of foreseeing in that retention space around some of the advantages of this work? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Through the chair, this is a problem that I think most organisations now are dealing with. As employees start to feel stress or start to even burn out, One of the outcomes is an impact on retention. Often, burnout impacts the most productive, most effective members of our team first, and so those are often the ones we lose first. And so that opportunity is quite significant. If we can address some of those mental health concerns and improve retention, it has also the impact of improving productivity through engagement. So we do note that retention challenges are a major driver of some of this work. We have seen it through parts of the organisation, and I have sort of referred to that in paragraph 16, where if we lose a staff member, it can take longer than their notice period to replace them, which leads to some challenges with workload for other staff members. So we do see this already across the organisation.
Interesting question at a time when we're just celebrating the fact that we're reducing the staff, but nevertheless, in the interests of mental health well-being, I might put, there is a mover and a seconder? And, Councillor Henderson can be the seconder. I was at one stage, but you can replace me. Yes. I will put this motion. All those in favour, please say aye. To the contrary, thank you very much. I'm sure that's good for mental health being. If you don't get stuck in this room too long, it'll be one of the sources of mental health problems.